Chris and Michaela have produced a wonderful body of work for the Secret Regatta exhibition. Just so kind of inspirational. So we have these 3D sculptural pieces with Chris's woodwork and poetry. And I think in this piece actually, it might well have been Chris that created this actual sculpture of a man. This piece is wonderful, with the way that Michaela's managed to capture the suggestion of the girls' clothes being blown in the wind, and then these rather wonderful glazed colours of blues and turquoises. I think that's quite special. And then this piece here, which I believe the driftwood piece, so this piece here, Chris and Michaela have had for a very long time and never quite known what to do with it. And then this exhibition came about and they suddenly knew what to do. And then we've got these wall-mounted pieces as well. I love this with the swirls of colour and text. It's like a sort of whirlpool swirling around. I love the texture of that piece. And then here, the air is alive with a sensory symphony of salt and song. Isn't that wonderful? To think that a poet and a ceramicist can create a portrait of a fife boat in such a way. I think that's rather special. And then this piece is beautiful. It's like a painting. So I heard Chris and Michaela talking about this to the school children in the school project. And Michaela was talking about how she'd used all sorts of things to make these marks, from rocks with barnacles on them to shells. And that's one of the things that I think appeals so much about this work from the two of them, is the textures. But then she's also managed to get these beautiful arrangements of colours and tonal variations. I love the way that they challenge themselves though. So the sort of centrepiece of the exhibition is this construction, which is just incredible. I mean, I would expect nothing else from Chris and Michaela now really to come up with something like this. So we have a poem laid into clay to form the sails, all on beautiful found wood, with all this metal detail as well, instantly making you think of boats. But then on the back as well, this amazing colour that they've managed to put onto the back of the sail panels. I'm so pleased that we've managed to get this into the gallery so that we can show you, albeit virtually. Isn't it beautiful? So then we have 6 pieces by local artist Mary Taylor, whose father was a skipper on fife boats. So she's got a proper connection to the Secret Regatta and to the Fife Regatta, it's been fascinating getting to know some of Mary's history. But actually, it's similar to Chris and Michaela. I find Mary's sort of, I don't know what's the best way of putting it, her ability just to seize a challenge and go for it and really experiment and test herself. I think it's just incredible. I think I'd be too frightened to do this. I mean, this is amazing. So look at the texture of the paint. Again, it's abstract up this close. And then you move back and you have this stramash of sails. And you can imagine it, can't you? The noise of the water and the halyards clinking and the crack of the sails and the wind and the shouts. She's really captured it in that one. And again, challenging herself, these boats making all these different movements in the water. Very difficult to paint. And this one, sheer beauty. I love the shapes of her sails. She's really, really managed to capture that, and with her gentle marks on the sails as well. And then that beautiful sky in the background. Looks a bit breezy and chilly in these ones. Again, yes, you can see the squall of rain coming across the Kyles and the wake of water behind the boats. A beautiful collection from Mary. And we've got 2 pieces by gallery favourite Kevin Fleming. Again, not so used to painting boats, so I think he quite enjoyed the challenge of this. I love his water and the white waves. Oil here in this case, oil on panel. And then down in this one, what you'd expect from Kevin is lovely foreground colours and textures of the lichens and the plant life on the shore. And then these sails moving around in the water. We'll move over to Deb. Deb is new to the gallery, but I've got to know Deb quite well over the last few months. Got quite a lot in common, and one of the things is that her passion for teaching and working with children and sharing, and I think that's quite special. But I love Deb's work. This piece has become a firm favourite of the exhibition, I think, because it's just so eye-catching and vivid. It's hard to see here, but if you go to her page on the exhibition website, you'll see a video where she talks about how she came up with this piece. But she talks about how she was fascinated by the shapes of the sails, and she played around with those shapes until she came up with something that's almost quite abstract. But the colours automatically appealed to me in that one. And then in her 4 other pieces, what's interesting here is you get to explore a bit of lino cut printing, which is not something we've had very much of in the gallery. This piece here, The Calm Before the Storm at Otter Ferry. The colours and tones are quite amazing. It takes you straight to that spit of land at Otter Ferry. And then here we've got Migration Ardentini. I love this piece because, again, being a sucker for composition, I love the line of the birds, how they go whoosh around this sun. And then the contrast of this dark land and trees and houses with this sort of tonally graduated yellow. It's quite eye-catching. And then here we've got Serenity Loch Goyle Head 1 and 2. So this is sort of demonstrating how each print differs. So each time you print from your lino cut, the print will always be slightly different because of the way that the ink has changed and the texture of the printing block has changed as well. Quite subtle, these pieces. And again, a sort of a mixture of really exquisite detail, actually, in the way she's captured all the masts, details around the masts and the reflection in the water. Then if you move over, it becomes again quite abstract, but you get the sense of that sort of still calmness on a kind of late summer's evening where the water reflects the sky and you almost can't tell where the sky meets the water. And we've got 2 pieces here by Tom Shanks. I've written a little bit about these in the Tom Shanks pages on the exhibition website, but I love Tom's work. I love particularly the strong blues in this piece and this view of the Burnt Isles, which is a view that you don't quite often see quite so much of. It's from the Coastal Road in Collintrive. And then I love the heavy pen and ink that we've got in this piece. I think his use of pen line drawing is just incredible. And quite bold, strong marks and colours again, I suppose, like Kevin and Deb and Mary to a certain extent. When you look closely, it becomes very abstract. I just think that's a skill in being able to have that ability for it to be so abstract up close and then for it all to come together and gel into a perfect picture. And then moving on to Heather Nevey, we have one of her construction pieces here, Depths in Meters. I love these pieces and it's hard to articulate why, but I think it's because I'm a magpie and I like collecting bits, gathering things, but then I never really know what to do with them, and so I get great pleasure from seeing how Heather has assembled and composed these into a piece with her drawings on the sea charts for the sails. But it also reminds me of the work of Joseph Cornell, who made assemblages in boxes with found objects, and they've always appealed to me. So I draw comparisons with that when I look at this piece. And then her amazing drawings on sea charts. This piece here, Tobermory Harbour, is a print of a sea chart onto handmade paper, which is what gives it that wonderful textural quality. And then really amazing detailed drawings over the top, fantastical creatures dipping in and out of the water, incredibly detailed boats. I mean, just look at that. Tall buildings with spires and flags, and then that dashes of red throughout to draw your eye in. And actually, I noticed was careful use of pastel around the edges, just not bold marks of pastel, subtle marks, tonal marks, just to add depth and bring the whole piece together, layer it up and make it quite a stunning piece. We have a smaller sea chart here. So much to look at. I mean, you could look at Heather's work for hours and hours and hours and hours and always discover something new. I mean, how she manages to create these, I have no idea. It must take her hours and hours. Okay, so it's just a taster of the exhibition. So please explore on the website where you'll be able to find much, much more to look at.